Father God, Lord, we just come to you right now. We're thankful for another opportunity to use this platform as a messaging board, so that a sounding board, so that we're able to just share our word with the world, Lord. That we're able to that you're able to let what you want them to hear come out today, God. And we just ask that you just give us that strength and the courage to do that. We pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Welcome to the Discipline and Legacy podcast. I have Jenna came in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. I've been following her on Instagram. She's got an amazing story. She's absolutely killing it in the fitness industry, helping people in the community, helping people in fitness. Kind of had the same the journey of moving into that yourself. But I'm excited to have you today and get to hear a little bit of your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So what I guess, we'll start with your journey, like obviously where you're from.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Alberta, Canada. My dad worked in the oil field, so we were moved around a lot. So we quickly left Canada and we moved to Venezuela, then Ecuador, and then finally we landed in Trinidad. So my mom and dad are actually from Trinidad, so their parents and their family members, they live in Trinidad. So it was nice for us to return home. One of the reasons we actually went back home, or my parents did, is because my mom felt as though she wanted more of a solid foundation for my brother and I, because we were very young. So by the time I got to Trinidad, I was probably maybe like 2-3 years old, very young.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to Trinidad, we first lived with my grandparents. And then my mom and dad found a house. We moved into our home. But my mom and dad, because my dad was offshore a lot, he wasn't really home a lot. And that took a toll on their marriage. So they quickly got a divorce. That was really rough because the divorce was not a smooth divorce.
Yeah.
So I remember my brother and I being really confused. We didn't know where my dad went. And he didn't stay in the country because he worked in oil. So he got moved to Louisiana. And my brother and I remained in Trinidad with my mom. My mom, at this point, she was a single mom. She didn't have any work because she was dependent on her husband. That was the dynamic they had.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really rough. But my stepdad, he quickly came into the picture. So my stepdad, he basically raised my brother and I with my mom. He's who I remember as my dad, essentially.
Right.
So I have a lot of appreciation for him and the role that he played in our lives. He definitely gave us foundation, and he helped pull us out of a really dark time, because the point in which my mom was, basically an independent mom on her own, raising 2 young kids. The bank, wanted to take our home. She was struggling to make ends meet. So when my stepdad came into the picture, he basically rescued us. So I always saw my stepdad as our savior, essentially. Yeah. But the thing about my stepdad is he was, God rest his soul, he was a brilliant man, basically self-made. He built his own business from the ground. But he came from a very hard background. So his family, they were pretty poor. They came from poverty. He built something for himself, and he was able to provide for his family. So he was a provider for everyone, essentially. So he provided for our family. He provided for his family. And basically his issue was that he couldn't say no. So a lot of people ended up, seeking help from him, and he couldn't say no. He would give endlessly, and that drained him. So at a certain point in our lives, he turned to alcohol. He became an addict before we knew it, and that changed the dynamic of our family forever.
This is all in Trinidad still?
Yes, all in Trinidad still. So this probably happened from the point in which he started drinking. I was probably maybe 6 years old, up until I left Trinidad, which was 2020. And when I left, I was 22, I think.
Okay.
So majority of my life, essentially. So my day-to-day life was very tumultuous because with addiction, it's not stable. So he would drink, basically every day. And it was like you never knew what you were coming home to, essentially.
That's crazy, too, as like a young, coming home from school, not knowing what you're going to get.
Yeah. So my parents fought nearly every day. It was really tough growing up in that environment. I like to say when it was good, it was great. And when it was bad, it was awful.
Yeah.
Because we definitely had our good times. My parents aren't bad by any means, but I can see now looking back where they didn't have a grasp on their pain, and their pain consumed them. And then that trickled down to us as kids. So eventually my mom and stepdad, they kind of separated, but they were still always together.
Right.
And that was a much better dynamic when they lived separately, because that probably happened when I was maybe 19 years old. But for the majority of my life, that was the dynamic growing up, with him in the house and, my mom and stepdad fighting nearly every day. So eventually now, when he left, my mom and I started having issues. But my mom and I started having issues because, she was in the thick of her trauma. And if you don't work on your pain, it tends to be projected outward. So I kind of absorbed a lot of her pain. And I also had a lot of trauma myself. So
I would say, a lot of stuff happens when we're younger that we carry with us as adults.
Yeah.
And there's 45-year-old men that I know that are still, with, issues from when they were kids.
Yeah. So my mom and I, we would feed each other a lot with our traumas, because I couldn't, I didn't understand what was going on. So I would just, I sometimes would be hysterical and I would not know how to control or regulate my emotions. And that would trigger my mom because of, the abuse she experienced.
Right.
So there was a point in my life where my mom and I did not have a good relationship. She was still a good mom, but in that state, we would just trigger each other, and it would be very reactive and explosive. Now, when I went to university, this was probably 2018 when I went to university, I basically put myself through university. I went to the University of the West Indies in Trinidad. So I was able to access free education to put myself through university. I was living in an apartment close to campus, so this put some space between me and my mom and my home relationship, which was great. But then the pandemic happened.
Okay.
So when the pandemic happened, I had to move back home because, everything in my country was really locked down. They were very strict about the lockdowns that we had. So campus closed, my apartment had closed, so I had to move back home. When I moved back home, we were all under one roof, my mom, my younger brother, and myself. And, the trauma started coming back up, and my mom and I would start, kind of triggering each other again. But this time it was different because we are stuck under a roof because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it was
that was a horrible time.
Yeah, it was not a fun time. And during somewhere in the mix, I was going through a really dark time because I was also set to graduate college. And again, I had put myself through college. So that was like a huge thing.
You were still doing online to finish?
Yeah, I was still doing online to finish. Then October came around where I was supposed to graduate, and I never ended up graduating. I mean, I got my degree, but I never
got to
crossed
walk.
the stage. Yeah.
What did you get a degree in?
Human nutrition and dietetics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were already on that path.
Yes. So I, wasn't able to graduate. I was in a really dark time. I also took care of myself a lot growing up. Like, from the time I was young, I loved making my own money and just building stuff for myself, essentially. So when I had to move back home for COVID, I didn't have any income. I didn't have a job. My school had finished, and I basically felt like I had no purpose. So I kind of got into a depression. And then I decided, okay, I'll start a candle business, because at that point in my life, I loved candles. So started a candle business.
My wife loves candles. Yes. She gets a budget every month.
I had a budget for myself too. It was ridiculous. And
so if you make your own though, then you can just that's
literally how the thought came up. I was like, you know what? This is such an expensive hobby. I'm just gonna start making them.
Yeah.
So I made candles. My business was called Lumiere, which actually means light. And my candle business was really good from the jump. So that was my little passion and my light in a dark time.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And somewhere along the lines, my mom and I were still having a very hard time. And then I reached a breaking point where I just felt like, I couldn't stay in Trinidad anymore. I just felt like I was not happy. I don't know, when you're that deep in your pain, you want to run. And that's how I felt. So one day my mom and I got into a huge fight. And I want to preface this by saying my mom is an excellent mom. I have a great relationship with her today. But back then when, we were just consumed by our pain, you're not yourself when you're in that state.
Yes. You react out of emotion. And it's not, it's always 10 minutes later, you're like, why did I say that?
Yeah. And that's how we both were.
Yeah.
So one day we got into this huge fight, and I basically left home. And when I left home, I vowed I was never going back home, essentially. I vowed that I would leave Trinidad because that's how, like, I just knew I couldn't stay in Trinidad at that point. Something was telling me you need to leave. So I was kind of homeless for a little bit. Like, I was jumping around from friends' homes.
And when you left, where did you go?
That night I went to a park and I sat there by myself.
In Trinidad,
Yeah.
still, okay.
Then I called my aunt and she called a friend, and the friend came and picked me up on the side of the road and then dropped me by my grandpa. Now, my grandpa, I couldn't really stay by him because the living conditions that he was in was not really conducive. He had Alzheimer's at that point, and that was a stage in life where we were trying to get my grandpa out of his home because he refused to leave and he had Alzheimer's and he was not in a situation where he could care for himself. So I couldn't really stay in the house because the house wasn't really conducive to like live in. So I stayed with him for a couple of days, and then I went by my grandma on my dad's side, my biological dad. I couldn't stay with her either because there was a risk for her getting COVID because she was in her 90s.
Gotcha.
So it was just a really weird time when not everybody wanted to take, somebody off the road. So I was kind of bouncing around from home to home, and then I ended up by my sister-in-law, my stepdad's son's wife.
Okay.
So I ended up by her, and at that time I had a cat as well. So she had a vacant room that she allowed me to stay in, but she didn't have a bed or anything. So I bought a air mattress for myself. But because I had a cat, she punctured the air mattress. So
sleeping in the middle of the night, you wake up, it's like flat on the floor.
Literally. So I bought a second air mattress after that, and same thing happened. So at that point, I was just like, I guess I'm just gonna sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I slept on the floor, lived out of like a very small suitcase, and then eventually my now husband helped me book a repatriation flight out of Trinidad. So our borders were closed because of COVID. So
Okay.
yeah, so that meant for me to get out of Trinidad, I had to sign a contract that once I left, I would not be allowed back into the country, even if something were to happen to like my family's because of COVID. Yeah. So I signed that contract knowing that, if something happens, I can't come back until these borders are reopened.
So you were really hurt.
I was very hurt. But it wasn't necessarily just because of the fight with my mom. It was just this lifetime of pain I had accumulated.
Well, you seem like you're very independent too. So you had that like, I'm ready to just spread my wings and fly kind of thing.
I had that trust in myself at that point where if I wanted to leave, I knew I could leave.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. My now husband, he helped book that flight for me, got me out of Trinidad. I came to Florida for a bit, stayed with him for about 3 weeks. And then I left all my stuff by him because I didn't really have money to like ship stuff. So I only had like 2 suitcases, and I couldn't take all of it to Canada because I knew I would have to pay a lot of money to, Yeah,
airplanes and
So I left some stuff by him, and so I went by my aunt in Canada. So I'm Canadian, so it was easy for me to kind of go back there. I lived with her for about a year, and that was great. And then eventually I kind of just wanted my independence again. Now, I should mention that when I got to Canada, that point in my life, I was kind of trying to understand where my life was going. So my now husband and I, we were long distance. So when I got to Canada, we were thinking of ways to close the distance. We, toyed with the idea of him potentially moving to Canada eventually, or me moving to the US. So that was the only way it could really work. And
he's American.
Yes, he's Jamaican, but he's American.
American citizen.
Yeah. So when I went to Canada, because I had just moved there, it kind of made more sense if we were ready to set like a plan for ourselves. It made more sense for me to think about moving to the US.
Yeah.
Because he had the stability, he had built a life here, whereas I just got to Canada. I couldn't guarantee that I was going to even like what I built. Right. So it was kind of hard for me to convince him, all right, you come to Canada instead. So immediately upon me reaching in Canada, we filed a K-1 visa, which is the 90-day fiancé visa. And that was probably, thank God we did that because I love where my journey ended up. But in the moment, before I have this perspective, it was really tough because I just got to Canada and now I'm applying to move to the US.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering, where's my home and when am I going to get stability? So I'm living with my aunt, move out of hers after a year. I find my own place with a roommate. And at that point, I develop even more independence. I'm now fully taking care of myself. There's no parents involved. I build a life for myself. I find great community in Canada. I make great friends. I'm going to festivals. I think because I had applied to move to the US and I knew that I had this very short timeline to live in Canada, that almost worked in my favor in that I knew that I had a timeline and I just kept wanting to like make the best out of my experience.
Right. You're like, I'm going to leave here soon anyway, so I might as well have as much fun as I can.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I went to every festival I possibly could have gone to because that is my escape. That is like my ultimate form of I can be myself and express myself fully and nobody's judging me. It's also how I met my husband. So for me, going to festivals is very like sacred. So I went to a bunch of festivals with all these new friends I made in Canada. I was really putting myself out there, built an amazing life, a life that I honestly did not want to leave.
Yeah.
So my husband, he would fly, then fiance, he would fly to visit me in Canada and we would still maintain long distance. And when it came time for me to move to the US, that was really hard for me because now
you didn't want to let go.
No. And I built this beautiful life that I was so proud of. I was getting amazing
What was like the time
opportunities.
frame here for that? Like, what would you say, like a year, 6 months?
Yeah, the visa process took 3 years because of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah,
COVID slowed it down.
Yeah. And so 3 years, and I had no idea how long it would take. So in my mind, it's like, I don't know, like, how long am I going to be in Canada? Could be 3 years, could be 5 years, could be 1 year. So I just told myself, just take each day as it comes and have the best experience you could possibly have. So I was in Canada, ended up being for 3 years. And then after building a beautiful life that I didn't want to leave, my visa came through. And so I was super excited for that, but I was also not excited to leave the life that I just built.
It's like the point too, like the 3 year mark is where you're like, yeah, I'm settled. I got
Yes.
everything figured out.
That's literally when I felt settled at that point. And I was like, crap. So I was excited, but I was also kind of like not ready to leave. And also it triggered me a lot and I didn't realize that. But it triggered me because now it felt like I was releasing all of this control and stepping into a life that I had no idea what it would look like. And I knew that I was doing that for someone else. And that was hard for me because, coming from a family dynamic where I looked out for myself a lot, now putting my faith in a man, that was tough, especially because, I came from a divorced family. And then my stepdad and my mom, they would fight a lot. So I'm putting all this trust in this long distance relationship, moving like literally to another country for him. And I'm like, I had so much faith. I felt like everything was, meant to be. But I always had like the what if in my mind. Because I'm like, if I get there, I did a visa that basically, I would not recommend the K1 visa to anybody. Yeah. Such a traumatic experience, but I'm grateful.
Really?
Yeah. The reason being is because once you enter the US on that visa, you can't leave. You can't work until you get approval. So it's a conditional visa. You can't work, you can't drive, you can't have a credit score. So I basically could not be a functional person in society until it was conditionally approved.
Were you able to still kind of like bring it from Canada and still utilize your credit and everything there? Really? That's crazy.
I know. So I moved to Florida, made the move. And once I did, it was not what I expected. Husband and I were great. Well, we were still fiance at this point, but we were great. But it was too much change all at once. I had just settled and then moving to Florida, it was a completely different dynamic. So like moving from Trinidad, a Caribbean country, to Canada where there's like winter and seasons and like I acclimatized to that. Then moving to Florida where there's
no season.
Yeah, I'm like my mind and I just was so out of sorts. I was like, this all happened in like a 3-4 year span and I had just moved to 3 different countries by myself. And I'm like, what the heck? Not only that, but when I moved to Florida, my husband and I had bought our home. So that's our first home. And in the buying process of this home, I was in Canada, so I didn't really it was hard for me to be a part of the process and truly like understand what we were getting into. My husband was very good. He would FaceTime me for all of the, everything he was doing, and he would show me the house as it's being built because we bought a new build. Okay. But once I got there, because it was a new build, I was so grateful for what we had, but my husband had to go to work. And so I would be in this house by myself, there's nothing because we had no furniture. I'm looking at white walls all day. I don't have a job. I can't drive. I don't have a credit score. Can't work. And so I'm just like in a house and I'm like, what the hell is my life?
Right.
And I didn't know how long that would remain because, again, I'm waiting on the USCIS to give me proper approval.
And it takes them forever.
And it's still like there's a backlog because of COVID. And you don't know when you're going to get that approval.
No.
So then I'm like, okay, well, I can't even leave because if I leave, I then abandon everything we did. And if I leave at that point as well, I was aware that my relationship to the US is going to be jeopardized.
Right.
Because I applied for that visa and we got so far in the process, if I abandon it, every time I ever try to come back to the US, I will be flagged because they might see it as me trying to come here illegally. So I was kind of in this position where I felt like I was stuck between a rock.
Definitely, yeah.
And then I went into a deep depression again. I was super triggered. All of my pain came flaring back up. All of the pain that I kind of thought I dealt with, but really just suppressed and hid away from. I dropped to about 90 pounds, and I'm 5'5", so for my height, that's really underweight.
Yeah.
I would go to doctor visits, and they would see, how small I was, and doctors, I could see their concern on their face. They would urge me, you need to eat, you need to eat. And I was eating, I was trying to eat. I just, sometimes I would eat and get nauseous because of how stressed I was.
Right.
So that was the first time in my life that happened to me. I'm accustomed, like when I experience pain, I'm very good at like working on it, pulling myself out.
Gotcha.
This was the one time I felt like, I don't know, but I can't pull myself out. And that
Stuck.
was scary. Yeah, felt very stuck. So then my husband and I now, we're due to get married. So we were still in that fiancé relationship. We're due to get married, and we always knew we wanted a very small, intimate wedding, just family alone. So we invite our immediate family, and my stepdad, he can't come because he had some health complications. He really wanted to be there. The guilt, it killed him that he couldn't be there, but he couldn't, he wasn't fit. His health would not allow. My biological dad just chose not to come. So there was that. So it was fine
And
because
through everything, did you still have a relationship with him, or was it like
a
little bit, or
little
just
bit.
because like, hey, it's my dad, I got to talk to him kind of deal?
Little bit. Like my dad also, I think this is where I struggle with pain is because I try to see the good in everybody and I try to understand why they make the decisions that they do. My dad, my biological dad, I can also see where he's a great person.
Right.
He is a loving person. He has a heart full of gold. But I think the problem with him is that he too never addressed his pain.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you don't address your pain, it turns you into somebody that you don't recognize. And so my dad would toggle between being a good dad, but then just kind of going AWOL and absent. And so growing up, that was a hard place for us to be because, it's like you want consistency and love from a parent. You don't want to know that like, okay, we're good one time and then all of a sudden you disappear from my life for a couple of years and then you just pop back in when you're ready.
Right.
So that's kind of what the dynamic was. But I had a lot of forgiveness and grace for my dad because I think like for you to be that way, you must have some type of pain you didn't address. And so...
Well, and then like, because I'm going through, I have a 15-year-old son and I love him to death, but I'm in the same boat, right? Where like, there's no book to teach me how to be a dad.
Yeah.
So like I question myself sometimes like, hey, am I being too hard on him? Like, I want him to be like me, but maybe he's not like me.
Yeah.
And
I could definitely see where my dad, like he tries, but I don't know if it's a coping mechanism or not, but I do believe he tries his best, but that's what his best is.
some people, how can you fix a problem if you don't know you have it?
Exactly.
So some folks, I mean, if you're not, like you said, you actively, if you had a problem, you would try to actively work on it. And some folks just don't have that,
No, they don't. And so now my, both dads couldn't be there essentially, but who showed up for us? That was great. We had a beautiful day.
Mom showed up.
Yeah, mom showed up. Siblings tried to be there, but they couldn't because we also had kind of like a last minute wedding shindig. Okay. Initially, it was supposed to just be my husband and I, and then we're like, let's just invite our parents and relatives. So that was a great day. But then 3 weeks later, my husband and I had a beautiful Saturday in bed, woke up, still newlyweds. And then my mom calls, so I answered the phone. And then she gave me the shock of my life when she let me know that my stepdad passed away. So I was not expecting that. Nobody was expecting that.
Yeah, it was unexpected.
Very unexpected. We knew that my stepdad, he battled with health complications due to his alcoholism. He had alcoholic liver cirrhosis. But, he was managing for a prolonged period of time. So I guess in our minds, we just thought he had more time.
It was normal. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And so when that happened, that was very rough because, again, that was 3 weeks after just getting married. So now I'm on this high from getting married, but then I'm devastated and experiencing like grief like I never had before. So when I got that call, I just remember feeling broken. And that sucked because I had just felt like I was now starting to get to a place where I felt like myself again. But then, no, that put me right back down. Yeah, that was really rough, especially because I knew I couldn't go home for his funeral because I was still under this visa process.
It was the COVID? Oh, because
the
of visa.
Yeah. So even though we got married, I still had to wait a while. I don't know why, but after you get married, you then have to show them, hey, we did the thing. We got married. And then they have to make sure it's bona fide, do all this background.
I went through it all with my wife, yeah. She's going to be a citizen next Tuesday. She takes her citizen
amazing.
exam.
Good for her.
Yeah,
what a relief.
But the whole process, I understand.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. So that was definitely, because of the visa process, I knew I wouldn't be able to go see my stepdad for his funeral. And that was hard because at this point, I also did not see my stepdad since 2020 when I left Trinidad.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I left...
video calls and stuff or nothing,
Well, we would speak on the phone, like a voice call.
Okay.
The thing with my stepdad is, like, he had a lot of shame and guilt because of all that happened.
Right.
So he would, he checked in on me so many times when I moved away. But sometimes, like, getting vulnerable with him or, just having more connection with him, he would hide because he didn't want to show you that he was struggling.
Gotcha.
Especially when he got sick or more sick, he definitely hid because he didn't want people to see his pain. Then now I knew I couldn't go to Trinidad for the funeral, which that was heartbreaking. I should mention that when I left Trinidad in 2020, the last time I saw my stepdad, we had a dinner for me when I was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and I, we kind of made amends. We decided, all right, I'm leaving. Let's just have a dinner. Let's, say our goodbyes. And my stepdad, when I, went to tell him goodbye, he like broke down crying like a baby.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like, I am never going to see you again.
Yeah.
And I said, no, don't be silly. Like, I'll be back. You'll see me.
Yeah.
But that was the last time I ever saw him. So then when I knew I couldn't go to his funeral, that killed me because I'm like,
you remembered that day.
yeah. And it just was like burnt in the forefront of my memory. So my husband.
You'll see him again.
And I feel like I see him all the time, honestly. I get signs from him all the time. It's crazy. But my husband, thank God for him, he decided he would go to the funeral. So I sent a picture of myself and my stepdad. I sent a note that I wrote for him, and I sent a bracelet of mine. And I put it in a little Ziploc bag. And I said, could you please put this in the casket for my stepdad? And he was actually cremated with it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that was my way of saying, here's a piece of me. I wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
But I watched the funeral on live stream by myself, alone in my beautiful but empty home. And I remember being on my knees watching the live stream and just thinking, how is this real? Like, I'm seeing all of my family on this live stream at this funeral. And I'm just like, this is the man that raised me. And I'm here in, like, another country because I decided to leave. And, it was surreal. So at that point, I, again, knew I had to pull myself out of my depression. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? Because at that point, I felt like I really hit rock bottom. And it was such a confusing place to be because, again, I just got married. Mm-hmm. And I have this new house. So I'm like, you think that I would be the happiest I've ever been. And, outsiders looking in on my life, they're like, I just moved to 3 different countries. Like, that sounds so, sensational.
You've had a journey.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been a journey.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, how do I pull myself out of this? And that's when I turned to my husband and I was like, if this is going to work, we need to meal prep. I don't know where that came from, but I was just like...
Just out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And he was like, let's do it.
Okay.
We developed that habit out of nowhere. Every Sunday, we would meal prep. Every Friday, I would go to the grocery, get everything that we needed. But that was a habit that really, I don't know how something so small could help, but it did.
Well, you guys did it together?
Mm-hmm. We did it together every Sunday. And that was a beautiful habit that we started. We still do it to this day, 3 years later.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it gave us structure, it gave us routine. And I feel like for me, that was very important because I felt like I had no structure, no routine. Like I would wake up in the morning and be like, what is my day supposed to be?
Well, like you said it, the key word is purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like something has to give you some sort of purpose, some sort of value of why you wake up, why you do what you do on a daily basis. So,
and like we are so wired to believe that our purpose comes from like the work that we do. And I didn't have any work at that time. So I was like, what the hell is my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I felt like I couldn't do anything because I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car. Not that even if I had a car, I could drive. So I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family of my own. I was just like, nothing.
yeah.
So to me, the only thing I could control, because, you know, in times like this, I look for control because control equals safety to me, at least it's predictable. So I reached for meal prep because I had control over that. And once I realized that that did wonders for me, I was like, okay, what else could I control? And the answer was how I move my body. So then I told my husband, all right, we need to go to the gym. So he got us gym memberships. He would come home from work, and every evening we would go to the gym together, and every Sunday we'd meal prep. And slowly but surely, I started recognizing myself again. I decided, you know, just for fun, one day we were in the gym. We're in Anytime Fitness. And I looked at my husband and I said, you know, I think I'm going to do my CPT. I was like, why not? You know, I didn't think that it would lead to a profession per se.
Right.
But at least it was something to do, something to put my mind towards.
Okay.
So I started doing my CPT, which was a 6-month course. Still kept up with my habits of going to the gym, also meal prepping. Started sharing my story online as well because, you know, with all that was going on in my life and me not having any friends or family of my own nearby, I felt very alone. And the only person who saw what I was truly going through was my husband. And so I felt the need to kind of maybe, you know, how about sharing this online and seeing, you know, how people respond, if anybody can relate. And lo and behold, there were so many people that can relate with my pain. There were so many people that rooted for me, validated me, made me feel seen, and made me feel motivated to continue this journey of working on myself. So then after I did my CPT, the craziest thing happened. I should mention that when I did my CPT, there was a voice in my head that self-doubt. And I questioned, you know, could this be a lucrative career? Is this something that I can really see myself making money out of? And I had to silence that noise and remind myself that is not why you're doing this. Like,
Right.
You're doing this because you want to help people. So
It's a passion. Yeah.
yeah. So lead with that, and whatever's meant to come from it will follow. So I just kept, every time I had that self-doubt, you know, are you going to be successful at this? I said, success is not important. What's important is helping people.
There you go.
So I kept telling myself that. And then once I got my CPT and I did my course, I shared it online. The owner at that Anytime Fitness, the same Anytime Fitness that I had mentioned to my husband, hey, I wonder if I should do my CPT. That owner reached out to me and offered me a job. Yeah. And the craziest thing is that same day, after
This
that,
is Port St. Lucie Anytime Fitness on
Becca.
Yep.
Yep. So he reached out to me and offered me a job. And before I took the job, I was actually contemplating a second job offer that I had gotten.
Okay.
So I had gotten a second job offer from Raw Athletic Club. How I got...
And you were allowed to work at this point, right? Because
yes,
you had got through all that.
I got my visa. Actually, no. This was before I got my visa. I still didn't get my visa. What I did get was I got...
Work permit.
Yes, a work permit. So as soon as I got my work permit, I'm like, I'm working.
Yes.
I'm doing something with my time.
Yeah.
So I had gotten a job offer from Raw Athletic Club. And how I got that job offer is because while I was studying for my CPT, I would put myself a lot out there on social media. And then people would reach out to me and ask to collaborate.
Yeah.
So I started collaborating, you know, not getting anything for my time. I wasn't making money off of it. But I was like, you know, you need community. You need connection. You don't know anybody in Port St. Lucie. This is the best way to do it. So any opportunity that knocked on my door, I said yes. And through that, I made connections at Raw Wellness. And they thought I would be a great fit as a personal trainer for the athletic club. So they recommended me as a personal trainer to the manager. He reached out to me, offered me a job. I went to go view the place. I was flabbergasted when I saw the athletic club because
I love Raw.
yeah, I was like, what is this? And I had no idea that existed. I didn't know what bodybuilding was. I didn't know who sebum was. I had no idea about any of that stuff. So when I walked into Raw Athletic Club, I was like, holy crap, yes. So took the job at Anytime Fitness. And this was literally probably like maybe 3 days after getting my certificate.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like crazy timing. I was like, that honestly, to me, this is kind of what started changing my perspective, because now I felt like this was alignment.
Yeah.
Now I felt like, all right, I think I'm actually in my purpose, because I think I actually needed to go through everything that I did to get to this moment. So then I start working as a personal trainer at both gyms and completely fall in love with that.
Yeah.
Then what changes for me is when I'm at Raw Athletic Club, I start seeing all of these super successful people who are so consistent, and they're coming to the gym and they're putting so much pride and energy and time into their physiques. And that was super inspiring to me. I was like, holy crap, like I have never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Seeing so many people just taking their self-development so seriously, it inspired me. So then I became interested in bodybuilding, and my manager invited me to a watch party for sebum, because it was his last title in the Olympia.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'll go check this out. And I went there, looked at the watch party, and was completely mesmerized, because I was like, holy crap, this man is like so inspired.
Yeah.
So again, this was like my first taste at bodybuilding. Still didn't understand what it was. Came back home and I was on Instagram on my explore page, saw a video or a reel of sebum, and I reshared it to my story because again, I was still moved. Random person reaches out to me in my DMs, and it's a coach, and he's from Brazil. And he basically saw that I reshared that sebum thing. And he says to me, hey, I'm a coach from Brazil. Do you want to compete? I'll give you coaching for free. And I don't know why, but I just said yes without even no investigation into him, nothing. Did not check to see if he, is a successful coach, if he's done this before. It honestly just felt right, and I just said yes. And then we just kept it going from there. Not that I recommend that, but it worked out for me.
No, but like seriously, your whole story has been like, here, you're just following the path and everything. Like that's how God works. Like he just like opens doors up.
It's all God. It's crazy. So I said yes to that. And, there were times where I would have self-doubt and be like, you don't even know this guy. Is he a good coach? You don't know. You haven't seen.
You had to have done some research before, no?
Nothing.
I didn't even want to see if he had winning.
No, I had no idea. Like, I didn't know that you were supposed to vet a coach and make sure that they're good and they know.
I'm a bodybuilding coach too, but I've never trained anybody. I got the certification. Trained myself.
There you go. That's something that counts.
Yeah.
So I didn't do any background search on him. I was just like, it felt right, and I said yes. And then he was very serious from the jump. So he just, started sending me all the things we needed to do to prep and get ready and, give me all the information. And there'd be times where I'd question myself and be like, is this do you know what you're doing? You don't even know this guy. But it felt right. So I'm like, I'm always going to listen to that thing that feels right. So then I competed, and then I should mention that when I said yes to bodybuilding, I still wasn't even sure what bodybuilding was. So in my mind, there was part of me that saw it as this big thing that I was so mesmerized by. Mm-hmm. But then there was another part of me that definitely judged the sport. And that part of me stemmed from my foundational beliefs with nutrition, because I studied nutrition. And so I was taught to, sustainability is very huge. And bodybuilding is not super sustainable, especially when you're in prep.
It's temporary.
Yes. But I didn't have that perspective back then. So I judged it, and I was like, I don't understand why people would put themselves through this, and why would they? But I was like, maybe that's why you should do it, because maybe there's something to learn on the
other end. Was that a question that you asked yourself? Was ever I want to see how far I can go. I want to see how far I can push myself.
Yeah, and bodybuilding scared the hell out of me, but that's why I thought it would be good for me, because I would be able to learn parts of myself that I wouldn't otherwise if I were doing something that I was more comfortable with. So I pursued it, and then I fell in love with it. And then all of my doubts, everything that I judged was completely erased, because then I understood why bodybuilders do what they do. And I understood that the sport runs so much deeper than just dieting to look good on stage. So once I saw that, it really changed my perspective, and then I fell in love with it. And after I did my bodybuilding, I started launching. So then, I fell in love with bodybuilding. It really gave me a lot of strength. I don't recognize who I am since doing bodybuilding. I'm a completely different person because of it. I built so much grit. I built so much strength. I navigate my mind so much better. Like, I just love who I am post bodybuilding. So that made me want to keep up with the discipline. It also gave me the encouragement and the confidence to pour into my coaching business. So I should mention that 3 years ago, I started my own business, but I'm still yet to actually launch the thing. I know. I know, because I just get in my way sometimes, but it doesn't mean I haven't worked on my business.
Right.
So my business is active, it's successful, but I just haven't launched my brand.
Okay.
But once I completed bodybuilding, I started putting it out there online that, hey, I'm an online coach and I can help people. Started sharing, what I stand for, how I work, what my work ethic is. Started sharing more of like my client stories and how I help them. And then the next thing I knew, I had people from all over reaching out to me for coaching.
Nice.
I have clients in Trinidad. I have clients in different parts of America. I have clients in the UK.
Yeah.
And, my coaching business has like helped me in ways that I didn't think were
You get
possible.
more out of it, I think, than you give.
Yes. It's so purposeful to me. I love pouring into people, and I see myself in every client, and I learn something from every client. And in what I do, it almost like feeds back into me because it keeps me wanting to get better. It keeps me wanting to get better so I could give the best to my clients. So essentially, I found my purpose in coaching. And when I asked myself, okay, well, how did you get here? It was literally because of everything I had to go through.
All the adversity.
All of the adversity. I would not be anywhere near where I am today if it wasn't just for going through the pain and telling myself you need to go through it to get through it.
Yeah.
And also would not be if not for God, because there was a large part of my story where when I was in my depression, now that I'm doing better, I asked myself, okay, well, what was my mental headspace back then? And back then, I victimized myself a lot. So everything that had happened to me in my life, I saw it as, I was a victim of everything that had happened. And that is not really a productive headspace to be in.
Right.
Whereas now, because I see so much, benefit from all the hardships that I've gone through, I now understand you were never a victim in any of that. Like, you had to go through those things and overcome.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, like, you can't overcome if you're a victim. So I no longer live in that victim mindset. And I think that has helped me a lot. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned in all of this is that I feel as though one of our biggest purposes on earth as humans is to learn to traverse our pain.
Yeah.
Because pain is inevitable. Why? Because death is inevitable. And so one way or another, we're doomed to experience
And what
pain.
comes from pain?
Purpose. Exactly.
And it sucks when you're going through it. I tell people that all the time. Like, you're in a hard spot. You're in a season of your life that is horrible. Like, I understand it, but that's the whole part. Like, anybody who's successful, anybody who's made it to what seems to be success to society or whatever, has gone through more failure than anybody and pushed through it. Because that's life, right? You're either going through something, you're fixing to go through something, or you're coming out the other side.
I think what I would probably want to continue off of is where I've reached with my life right now, which is, so since I've been through everything that I've been through, I would say something that has really helped me get through all of my pain and really changed my perspective on all of this is my relationship with God. Because when I asked myself, okay, well, you said yes to things that did not feel, like you had the answers to, that was faith.
Yeah.
And so having faith has brought me to everything that I've been able to experience today. Even the marriage that I have, my husband, who is amazing, I had to have faith in moving here. I had to have faith in us being able to be together, even though I knew that, entering marriage from a long distance relationship, who knows how that could go.
Yeah,
but
you skipped the fear.
Yeah.
The fear part, like where anybody would be like, oh, maybe I should do research on this or maybe I should do that. You were just like, no, I'm going. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
I think that's the best way to build trust in yourself, to be honest, because it's like you either, if you fall and you fail, you learn. And if you don't, then you get an opportunity and that thing is a blessing. So I always like to remind myself that everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing. So I try not to see failure in anything.
There's something to learn from no matter what, even in success or, but the failure definitely, That's what I ask. I ask the question, like, what am I supposed to learn? Anytime there's adversity in my life, that's the first question I ask. It's not like, poor me, why me? It's, what am I supposed to learn? And it changes your perspective on how to get through it, or to push through it or not.
Absolutely. And in me working on myself, I was able to heal my relationship with my family as well. So my mom and I, our relationship has never been better. You know, we speak nearly every day on the phone. She is like literally one of my best friends. We are so close now, which is insane. And then just my relationship with myself and the rest of my family and my relationships with everybody has healed just because I've been able to work on myself. So.
That's, fitness is healing. Like, I don't like even when we go on vacation, my wife's like, "You're going to the gym again?" I'm like, "You don't understand." I'm like, that's like my happy place.
Yeah,
and
it's how you keep yourself right.
It releases endorphins in your body. Like, it physically, you know, and neurologically is better than not doing anything, you know. So moving your body, you know, it's just scientifically proven to make you feel better.
Absolutely. It's so powerful.
But awesome story. Amazing story.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing about it now that I look back.
Yeah, and same. I mean, most people, I think that whenever they make it to a certain point in their life, or whether you want to give back, right? Anybody who reaches their purpose, you see that they're giving back. Like, that's what serving is what we're supposed to do. Yeah,
that's what fills me. That's what makes me feel good. It's not even about money. It's not even about like how many clients or numbers or anything like that. It's not even about like a social media following. It's just about, what purpose am I leaving at the end of the day, and how do I feel about that when I go to bed?
Money can't buy that.
No, money could never buy that. Nothing could buy that. So that stems from within, and that's where all of that deep inner work comes from.
Carrying yourself that way, like, the money becomes icing on the cake at some point, because you're being paid in a way that, you know, you can't be paid elsewhere. So I definitely identify with a lot of what your story, and if you had to, you know, let's say you got a young up and coming young lady or young man that wants to get into the industry, or you know, what would you say to them as far as, you know, how to enter it?
I would let them know to believe in themselves, keep going, do not ever question yourself. You know, it's not an easy industry to penetrate. There's a lot of competition, but you have to understand that there's nobody like you.
Right.
There's only one you. And if you truly understand what is your gift, what are you good at, what can you give, you're not going to care about the competition. And so you focus on you build the best you can possibly give, and that is what is going to set you up to be a successful coach.
Amen.
Because you, in finding yourself, you will also attract clients that are similar to you, that need you. And in you also understanding your pain and what you've been through in life, that is what is also going to help you acknowledge and see others and their pain and how you can help that in some way, shape, or form. So the best advice I would give to anybody wanting to enter the fitness industry is to just work on themselves, believe on themselves, and understand that there's nobody else other than them. And so just be the best you, and you will be successful in anything you do, fitness or even any other industry.
Yeah. Uniqueness. Yeah.
Yep. And also lead with God, lead with faith, you know, there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be something bigger than you that you can surrender to, because there's life, you know, life is so complex. And if you try to think that you are in control of absolutely every outcome, it's a very hard place to live. But if you believe that, hey, you're surrendering to something much bigger than you, it doesn't matter whether you see that as God, you see that as spirituality, you see that as a universe, there just must be something bigger than you that you are able to surrender to and have faith in.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And that's, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who you believe in, Buddha, whatever. Like, it's the same thing, right? Something.
It has to be something bigger than you.
That's
it can't
right.
just be you.
What would Jenna now say to Jenna 10 years ago?
I would say it gets better for sure. And I would say, you know, trust yourself, trust the journey, trust the process, trust God, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You are on your path, and keep going, and don't ever turn back, and don't let anybody make you feel like you are supposed to be somebody that you're not. Just keep being you, and that's the best thing you could ever do for yourself.
You said something too just a few minutes ago. You said something about, you know, you will attract people that need you, right? And it's proven, right? You people walk at a certain frequency, emit lights. You know, I truly believe in that. And what would you say to somebody that maybe is like kind of scared to put themselves out there. What did you do to put yourself out there? Because
I honestly use social media as a tool because I figured, all right, if I want to help people, I have to be willing to kind of not care about how I'm being perceived. Because if I want to help people, I don't.
How did you get to that point though, to where you to not care what people think about you?
Oh, how I got to that point was I just ripped that freaking Band-Aid off. I would sit in my room and I would record videos of myself speaking to the camera, but I would record maybe about 100 takes, and I would get so frustrated and be like, I need to say the perfect thing. I need to look the perfect way. And then there was a point where I was just like, no, post it, feel the embarrassment, sit in the suck, and you will get better through that process. So I would take, I can look back at videos that I posted on my Instagram. I still have them on my feed, and, some stories that I did, and I cringed. I'm like, holy crap.
That's how it is in the beginning.
Yeah. But I just was like, you just have to do it. So I just did it. I just posted it, but it did not feel good. I would get super anxious. I would sit and just like think about how I'm being perceived. I would sometimes spiral. I would put my phone away and just try to distract myself. But then every time I did it, it got better and it felt freeing. And
Putting in the reps.
Yeah, exactly.
Consistently.
You just have to keep doing it. And once you keep doing it, it becomes second nature. You also realize that your thoughts aren't real. Like, I was allowing my thoughts to create a reality where people would judge me. And that to me was like, oh my God, no, I can't.
It takes you back to that victim mindset, right?
Exactly.
I'm not that important, where
Exactly.
people aren't going to think all the things I think about me. But
Exactly. And so when I started putting myself out there, I'm like, all right, nobody's judging you. You're fine. You survived. Your anxiety didn't get the best of you. You're still you. And if anything, you're a better version of you because you did something that was uncomfortable. So I just kept doing that, and now here we are, and I could pick up a phone and I could speak to the camera, I could post anything, and I feel great. And I don't think, oh no, what is the world thinking of me? Am I gonna crumble? Do they think I'm stupid? Do I look like a failure? I don't think that way anymore.
That's awesome. No, it's a powerful place to be, and it's almost like a cheat code. But truly, I mean, for me and my walk it's same thing. It was God. God kind of gave me that strength and that courage, and I asked for it. And they say be careful what you ask for because you just might get it.
Oh my God, I should mention that before any of this, before I decided to do my CPT, before I found meal prep, before I started going to the gym, my husband and we started going to church. And one time I was at church, I was sitting out, kneeling, praying, because we go to a Roman Catholic church. And I had tears pouring down my face, and I was praying, like the words were just coming out of me. Yeah. And I just kept praying, please help me find my purpose. All I know is I want to help people. I said, I don't care what it is, just help me help people. That's all I prayed for. And then I swear, like a couple of weeks later, this whole idea came into my mind, CPT, go to the gym, do meal prep, and then boom, here we are. So be careful what you ask for, but I'm so grateful that I asked for what I did.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they say, pray for specific things. Pray like you already have it. And same thing, it's like a superpower that can be unleashed.
Every night I pray for the same thing. I pray to God, please help me help people. And something that's even crazier is when I was able to go back to Trinidad, once I got my visa, I went back in, I think it was 2023 or 24. The first thing I did is I went into my chest, because in my bedroom, I have this big chest where I keep a lot of my most prized possessions. I was actually able to find my journals that I wrote in since I was like maybe 8-9 years old. All of my journal entries were me talking about how I want to leave Trinidad, I want to build a life outside of Trinidad, and I want to help people. And that I don't know what I want to do in life, but all I know is I want to help people. And I go into depth, and I'm just writing and talking about my passion for wanting to help people. And I don't know what my future is going to look like, but I just know that that's what I want.
Journaling's powerful.
Yeah, and I didn't even remember those journal entries. It's not until after, when I look back in my journal, I'm like, this is my life now.
You spoke it into existence before you,
It's crazy. It's so powerful. And that's why I believe in the things that I do, because I've seen what it's done for my life. And I will continue to believe and spread that as well.
Once you see there's no coincidences, that everything kind of happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
And death and life is in the power of tongue. So what you say over or speak over your life or death, you're going to, it can be spoken to existence for sure.
Absolutely. I always remind my husband, like, you must speak powerful things on your name. Be careful what you say, even if it's a joke, because trust me, power of the tongue is real.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's like Same. Like I can identify with a lot of stuff. So that's awesome. What do you got going on now? What's going on in your life now?
Right now, I'm still doing personal training. I do personal training mainly independently, and I also do online coaching independently as well. So I can help anybody anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're located. With online coaching, it's very in-depth. You know, we do weekly check-ins. There's a community base as well where you can be part of a community group. I also involve functional health coaching in there as well. So I'm not only looking at, you know, a person and how they're responding to their program, but I'm also looking at their health from a more functional perspective and then building that into their programs so that they see better results and so that they just feel supported along their way.
Yeah.
So I do online coaching and then I'm still pursuing bodybuilding as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's the next one?
I'm hoping towards the end of this year. I'm aiming for around November, hopefully. Just have to put on a little bit more muscle and then we're in a good place to compete again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The business, is it launched? What's going on with that? Is it official?
Business is official, so everything is good to go, but I just haven't launched my branding as yet. So I'm going to do that pretty soon. I do have a timeline involved. We're looking at a couple months, and then we're going to launch my brand, like official brand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We're definitely going to put all her links in the bio. You guys follow her, check her out, and I'm anxious to see it too. So
I think based off of what I spoke about today and my story, once I launch my brand, it will connect everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to say?
Just keep believing in yourself, doing the best you can, and whatever you're going through in life, just know that you're not alone. There are people that can relate to you, and just keep believing in yourself. And if you have nobody to speak to God, and you will come out of your hard times.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you as well. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
It's a powerful, powerful message. I can't wait to put it out to the world, and super grateful that you were able to come.
Thank you. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Thank you guys for another episode of Discipline and Legacy.